What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the MCU Reviewed as presented by Fantastic. Man, I mean, we got Fantastic. Maybe the word we're looking for today is amazing because we're talking about Spider-Man Homecoming. Booyah, baby. There we go. John's got the 4K Beauty Edition there. One of maybe 3 or 4 Blu-rays? 3. All right, good. We're going to get to a lot of awesome stuff. Hopefully you checked out our episode last week on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and how much we loved everything with that movie. I think we're going to see a lot of the same today. Although at the end of that episode, I'm very intrigued to hear where our fellow geeks land on the Spider-Man debate. Regardless, we'll get to that in a moment. I'm Josiah Leroy. With me today, as always, my right-hand man, Mr. Baba Yaga. John Fick, you got some really nice Nintendo gear that you're sporting there.
Oh yeah, I'm all over the place. Nintendo New York out of my mind right now. Got the nice little dad hat. I've been wanting a new water bottle for a while, so I was there. I'm like, all right, I gotta go with the bright red New York Nintendo water bottle. And I spent way too much money at that store and way too much time. But every time I go to the city, I do the same thing. I'm there for like 45 minutes to an hour and a half, no matter what. Everyone that goes with me hates it, but
it sounds perfect to me.
Yeah, it's awesome.
JT, you have you shared with us a really fun story pre-show about a little gaming adventure that you just had. Why don't you talk about that?
Oh yeah. So just finished up Horizon Zero Dawn, which John has been picking at me to continue to play for over a year and a half now, if not more. I know I started it
3 years.
Yeah, well, no more, 3 years. Well, I didn't try to play it 3 years ago. I know it was a little after that anyway, but yeah, I loved it. I regret ever just deciding not to play it. Similar to Ghost of Tsushima, which is a very highly acclaimed game for me. Love open world games in general, and I feel like John's introduced me to like every open world game I've ever run into. Far Cry being one of the first I think I ever played. So, yeah, I loved it. Loved it. I played it in just story mode though, so I didn't play an easy, medium, hard. I played just story because I wanted to get the story itself out, which is great. Left a lot of snippets for Horizon Forbidden West that's coming out. It's also part of my fantasy team for Fantasy Critics. So I'm super excited about it. If when and it comes out.
It will come out.
Yes,
whether or not it's 2021.
You're also going to play one of my favorite games ever very shortly in God of War. But past that, you played Call of Duty with someone pretty sweet.
Yes. Oh, that story. Oh, I'm so sorry. Wrong story. But we got this story too. Yeah,
I was with today, you, John. I thought that too.
I definitely thought Horizon. You guys just wanted me to play it so bad. Maybe I'm just stuck in my head. But yeah, today I randomly was on Twitter and Tyrell Dotson, the Buffalo Bills linebacker, was looking for some people to play COD. So I hopped on and we got a lobby together. He's a super cool guy, super chill. A couple dubs. He's actually one of the more cracked players I've ever seen. I think first game with him, we had like 17 kills. And like every time I turn to go kill someone in the game, they're just dead. And I'm like, oh, okay. Here's my 3 kills. Enjoy it. But yeah, he was a nice guy. I got my brother in there. I got one of our friends, Mike Newton, in there, and got 2 dubs out of it. So it was nice. Yeah, he's a good guy, and it's nice to see that he's willing to play with anyone, and I appreciate it for sure.
That is pretty flippin' sweet, if I can say so myself. Hopefully, we can get him in one of our charity live streams in the future. But the Buffalo Bills, man, seems like everything they touch is success these days, including video games. So the real reason we're here to talk MCU. If you haven't caught up or if this is your first time tuning in, thank you so much. Whether you're watching at youtube.com/thegeekiverse or wherever you listen to podcasts. Spider-Man Homecoming, a landmark movie for so many reasons, a movie that I never thought that we would get. We got it. Marvel and Sony got together and made one of my favorite movies of 2017. The 6th Spider-Man movie, if we're going back, we had the original trilogy with Tobey Maguire, and then we had 2 films with Andrew Garfield. But to me, we got the definitive experience with what we see in Tom Holland in the current iteration. Let's intro just our quick 101 thoughts on the movie. I'm very excited to see where you guys land on this. I think it's generally I would say mostly beloved movie. But John Fick, take it away. Overall thoughts on Spider-Man Homecoming. We got our love letter to 1980s teen comedies or teen 1980s movies, if you will. I couldn't agree more with everything you said there. JT, thoughts on Homecoming?
So I think last episode, John was a little nervous for, I don't know if it's just for me because he knows my opinions or for the both of us, but I said, I only watched Homecoming one time in theaters. It was on my birthday. I remember specifically. I know we were probably going to ask this that later, but opinion changed and for the better, much more for the better. I think I appreciated more than anything, and that's kind of what you said, John, is they didn't have to focus on Uncle Ben and I got bit and like honestly, the specific parts that speak to that as kind of like a joke, like, oh, we don't need to do that anymore, and you just love it. It's like it kind of fit in perfectly. The drama, a lot of the action scenes, Peter trying to learn the superhero life after just being in such a big film and a big event in Civil War. I definitely enjoyed it for sure. I want to, excited to get into it and figure, go through it.
So I'm very, very intrigued, as I say every single week, to see where we get this on the rankings list. We're going to rank these movies as we get to the end of the show, as we do per every episode. And I've got a number in mind. I'm pretty confident in my head. I'll tell you guys afterwards if I was right or wrong, where this is going to land. Just kind of knowing the playing field here, knowing for the most part where John and JT go in addition to my votes, I think I've got a good number in mind. But that being said, I agree with a lot of what you guys said there. I instantly love this movie upon seeing it in the theater, and somehow every time I've seen it past, I like it a little bit more. It really is the perfect Spider-Man movie. We got our awesome Tom Holland there. We got a lot of RDJ, and we love our Iron Man here at the Geekiverse. Michael Keaton is, man, one of the best MCU villains. He just
easily
no part of this movie mails it in. It is very carefully crafted. No stone is left unturned, even to all the nods and Easter eggs in the background, and just a really, really good self-awareness. And it found a way to really, in my mind, encapsulate the best of what Spider-Man is. So, that being said, the movie came out July 7th, 2017. Box office numbers, it does, I believe, $880.2 million. Pretty good, right? Par for the course. We see this kind of sliding scale of MCU movies. They slowly get up, minus the big Avenger tentpole movies. But that's the norm. That's great. Sony's happy with that. After Sony and Marvel get together, then Marvel produces a pretty damn good movie for them. So I think overall, no surprises on the box office here.
Right.
Not surprised.
In terms of the show, before we get on to our next bullet point, I did want to mention at the onset, we said this is sponsored by Fantastic. If you don't know, Fantastic is a division of 26 Shirts. Go to 26shirts.com. Every week, they've got great new shirts on sale. Proceeds of every sale go to a charity or a family or a person in need. They always outline what the need is and where those funds essentially are going. To date, they've raised over $1.1 million that go directly to these individuals, charities, and families. Such an incredible, big-hearted community that 26 Shirts is spawned on here. We're happy to be a part of it. Dell was on our episode last week. Again, go check it out. It was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I have a feeling he's going to move heaven and earth to be on the next episode that we're going to talk about. But today, it's all Spider-Man. JT, you kind of alluded to it there. So why don't we go to you first? Take us through a little bit your first viewing of this. And I guess to this date, almost your only viewing prior to this.
Right. At the time, I finished it up today for my second viewing. But the first viewing was on July 8th, my birthday of that year. It was actually my 25th birthday, I believe, because there was like a surprise party associated with it too. So
that adds up.
Vivid memories. But yeah, definitely enjoyed it. Was excited for it because we had seen Spidey in Civil War. I was super cautious though because I was really upset with the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. And the fact that they like regurgitated the story in a sense, right? And I was like, just don't do this MCU. Like, I don't want it. Don't do it. I was happy that they didn't. And yeah, it was a great. I would say, initially gave me a little bit of. There were times I just thought it was a little too corny, a little too kiddish. I think we see that more so in Far From Home, which we're going to go through that in the future, obviously. But yeah, I'm totally wrong on that first viewing. Looking at it again now, maybe because I haven't watched it as much either. Obviously, I think it's just not really available anywhere. I had to rent it, like physically rent it. So through Amazon Prime. So yeah, I definitely initial wasn't really as good as I thought it was, but watching it again, it definitely grew on me, and I definitely enjoy it now for sure.
So JT, you sound a lot. I love the honesty here because we largely, especially in the last few movies here, have just gushed about everything. So you sound a lot like I sounded when I saw Guardians 2 for the first time, right? Like I was like, okay, I'm not really sure how I feel about this. I'm not liking it as much as I had hoped. And then time went on, and my opinion changed on that. Clearly, we saw in the rankings. This one was kind of right off the bat for me. I got to say, I remember seeing the original Spider-Man trilogy with Tobey Maguire and crew. I thought those were, okay movies. They never hooked me like anything the MCU has ever done in terms of superhero movies, or even like if we want to shift gears to The Dark Knight. They were never on that level for me. I thought the Amazing Spider-Man movies were not very good overall. Especially, just it never got there. This just, it totally blew me away in terms of what I knew this character could be, and Marvel and Kevin Feige and crew, they knew it and they nailed it. John, your first viewing of Homecoming, what you recall?
So this is the first film I was actually able to track down my ticket for in my Apple Wallet. So this was Thursday, July 6th at 7:30 p.m. I went with 3 other people apparently. So that was probably like my crew, and I'm sure other people had groups of tickets near us and stuff like that. So I saw it the day before it technically came out, but that's how it works nowadays. My expectations were sky high, man. Like I said before, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy is what got me into superheroes. That was my bar, man. Like that was like that was as good as it can get for many years for me. I was into the games, I was into the toys, everything, man. I was all about Spider-Man. And by the time the Andrew Garfield ones came out, I had been able to reflect and realize that those weren't perfect movies, and I wasn't sure what to expect with those ones, and those were fine or whatever. I liked a lot about those films, but we can talk about that a different day. Just coming off of Civil War and knowing what Tom Holland can bring to the character, seeing some of the trailers, which we're gonna see in a little bit here. My expectations were sky high, and they just blew them out of the water. That film, I remember having so much fun, and almost every 10 minutes just thinking, "Oh my God, they're doing it." And John, I get what you're saying about like maybe the first time watching it thinking it's a little corny. I totally see how that could how you can have that perspective, or that can come across that way. For me, it's like, dude, they're nailing the high school Peter Parker. He's so awkward. He is so corny. These jokes are terrible, and I love it. Like they just kept nailing it, and the music choices behind all of that corniness was so good. And then, dude, I don't know. There's no spoilers for a movie in 2017, but when we get that reveal that the Vulture is the girl's dad, I'm like, oh, that was one of like my all-time in theater movie moments of like, holy crap, dude, like this is not, I didn't see that coming, and nobody that I was with did either. That was a bombshell for us. So I always think back to that moment as one of like my biggest like in theater crazy moments. So that's up there for me. That first viewing like solidified it for me. Spoilers for the end of the show, but solidified it for me as one of the top movies in the MCU.
Yeah, I think you're feeling what I was feeling there. We're going to queue up the trailer in a moment. So if you're watching on YouTube, you'll get to watch our reactions as we watch the trailer. You'll just have to listen along if you're on the podcast format. But my first viewing, so again, very similar to Guardians. I was out of town for at least the first 5 days, if not the first week that this came out. So I didn't get there right away. So I was radio silent. I was trying to stay away from everything. And oh my gosh, it was so painful not to get there because I wanted to see this so bad. But I ended up going, with our usual crew, minus the people who couldn't wait for me open night, which, hey, don't blame them at all. And well worth the wait of the few days to a week there. So, man, this is a movie that I feel like I don't rewatch terribly often. We'll get to that later on. It's not as accessible, let's say, as some of the other MCU movies because of Disney Plus. But when I do watch it, it's one that I want to really make sure I'm glued to, and I'm not doing other things. I'm not having it on in the background. It's one where I kind of want to watch in peace and really take in every detail with it. John mentioned the corny dynamic with nerdy high school Peter. This is it. Tom Holland really, did a good job in Civil War, but this is the performance here. He gets that squeak in the voice, that awkwardness, that shortness of breath. Really makes you feel what it feels like to be a high schooler again. Just incredible job all the way around. Robert Downey Jr. is amazing as he always is in the MCU, but this is a new version of what we see in Iron Man and Tony Stark. He's dad, essentially. That father figure.
Batman Beyond.
Yes, and it's so beautiful in so many ways. Do you guys want to get the trailer rolling?
Yeah, we can do that. We can get that happening. All right. Cool. You guys got it up?
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead and play.
What's up, guys? Wait a minute. You guys aren't the real Avengers. I can tell Hulk gives it away. Oh, that was awesome. Does Liz get a new top?
No, we've seen that before. Never with that skirt.
Should probably stop staring before it gets creepy, though.
Too late. You guys are losers.
So, to become an Avenger, are there, like, trials or an interview?
Just don't do anything I would do. And definitely don't do anything I wouldn't do. There's a little gray area in there, and that's where you operate.
Oh.
All right?
That's not a hug. I'm just grabbing the door for you. All right, kid. Good luck out there.
Listen, I know school sucks.
Peter, you still with us?
Yeah.
I know you want to save the world, but you're not ready yet.
You're the Spider-Man.
No, I'm not. This is just a costume. This is...
You're on the ceiling.
Stay close to the ground and stay out of trouble. Forget the flying monster guy. There are people who handle this sort of thing.
I'm sick of him treating me like a kid all the time.
But you are a kid.
This is my chance to prove myself.
Peter, what is going on with you?
I'm really sorry. I'm so busy. I'm slammed.
Don't mess with me, because I will kill you and everybody you love.
Nailed it.
They nailed it, but this is one of those trailers where I vividly remember watching it when it first came out, and I'm like, dude, you are showing me way too much. You just showed me 3 of the funniest moments in that movie, and I know those are going to be the big punchlines. And you just showed me the big shot of Spider-Man right at the end, like he's doing the Tobey Maguire pulling the train together, but he's doing it with a boat. You just showed me that. Like, I remember seeing that trailer and be like, all right, you sold me on the tone. This is going to be awesome, but don't show me this much stuff. And I know that's on Sony because Sony has all of the marketing rights to these films, both the Spider-Man ones, and you just can't leave nothing for you, man. Frustrating, but you're right. They did nail the tone.
I feel like in the scheme of things, they really didn't though. Like the movie was consistently funny throughout. Sure, there was, a big moment with the ship there, but I come back to and I'm going to talk about this as we get into my notes later on. The Adrian Toomes reveal that he is her father was
huge.
Something that sticks with me big time. Like that, incredible. So I think about that in hindsight now, having seen the movie. But I thought it was good with the 80s dynamic, and it sets that tone. And it's like, hey, this is a kids movie. Oh, it also happens to be a Spider-Man movie. Right. I don't know.
No, I get you. I mean, it didn't ruin the movie for me. Obviously, I still gushed about it, and I still, hold it in high regard. It's just a trailer. I'm just picky about that stuff. I just know when I see a trailer, I can feel like when you're giving me too much, and I remember seeing it back then and be like, all right, that was a lot. There was a lot of stuff going on there. I can tell that like these are different segments of the movies, and you just showed me a ton. But again, by the time it came out, I had forgotten about it. It's just something I'm picky about.
At the time, it felt like every movie that was coming out, they just lean. A lot of companies led away from giving up too much in trailers. Like they did simple, basic stuff in the trailers, and then there's Sony. It's
right.
like,
and it's like
you guys didn't have to do that.
It's an MCU movie.
Why?
You don't need to show a single
you could
commercial.
Show the logo.
and it still makes $800 million. 100%.
$800 million.
You don't lose a single sale without
that's all you
showing
need.
that. Right. That's a
Yeah,
tangent.
and
Whatever.
like again, we didn't know until actually going into the movie that was going to be in there for sure. But you just know because of Sony.
I will say that there was a lot of unused dialogue in this trailer. A couple of lines that weren't in there. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. I would say their misplacement of, I guess the voiceovers compared to the scene kind of helped in a way. You know, when Tony's walking with Tony or Peter, and obviously that's a different scene when they're actually talking. So, yeah, overall, Sony's not the best at giving out a trailer. So,
and that is why it was very important for Marvel to be really, really involved in this. So, because you know how it goes if Sony runs the show here. We don't get this movie anywhere near.
Haven't seen Venom. I just have no interest in watching Venom. I don't know.
Yep, I don't blame you. I have seen it.
It's not bad.
No, it's not bad.
I've heard mixed things. I've heard that it's like absolute like bottom of the barrel dog water, and I've heard that like it's not bad. So neither of those two opinions make me want to go watch it.
No, there's nothing I could say that I think could sell you on going to see the movie. I enjoyed it for what it was worth, but it's
strong caveat. I do not like Tom. What's his name? What's the actor's name?
Tom Hardy.
I don't like Tom Hardy at all. I like actively dislike Tom Hardy's performances in movies, so that's part of the reason.
You will definitely not like this movie. There's no way around it.
And Sony's 9-minute trailer told me that I was not going to like him. Don't worry.
And I'm pretty sure that movie's like an hour and 20 minutes max with the credits. It's really, really short.
So the trailer was longer, basically.
yeah. So I think I watched this trailer and I think back about how Tom Holland was cast in this role. And if you've never watched the Chef Show on Netflix, go watch it. Jon Favreau, I love Jon Favreau. Like I would love to hang out with him for a day and just talk about things and eat, like be in a kitchen, make food, have beer. Oh my gosh, that'd be like a dream come true. So in short, one of the episodes, he has Robert Downey Jr., the Russo brothers, and Tom Holland on. They go to a restaurant. They talk about the casting. And it basically happened very quickly because, of course, all of this came together very quickly where Sony and Marvel got together. And this is around the time of Civil War. So he comes in and screen tests with Robert Downey Jr. basically in the middle of production and then gets the job. Not only for that, but of course for future Spider-Man movies, the Avengers, you name it. It's just unbelievable how it came together. Go watch it. It's in season 1 towards the end. When do we get to how many times have we seen this movie? We know JT's answer. He's seen the movie twice. John, you being kind of I would say a next tier Spider-Man fan from us. What would you say?
Probably like 15. I love this movie. I watch this a lot. And for someone like me who's such a big MCU fan, if you followed along with this podcast, I don't rewatch them a lot. When I rewatch them, I want them to be like a big thing. I like to rewatch them in order, and I don't want to dilute the experience. I really love these films a lot. To trickle back to something you guys were talking about a little earlier, it's kind of funny to me, and it makes a lot of sense now, but talking about how this movie isn't accessible, to me, it was kind of the opposite, because I was always buying the movies digitally right when they came out. I wanted to have the entire collection of those movies digitally, and for me, why it was so approachable was because it was the only MCU movie for the longest time in 4K with HDR, because it was produced by Sony, and Disney wasn't playing ball with that. Lots of stuff going on with Disney, Apple, and so 4K MCU movies didn't start happening until Disney Plus, really. A couple came out before, but whatever. So Spider-Man was always the movie for me that was like, all right, I've got my nice 4K HDR TV. I'm sitting down and watching Spider-Man tonight. So like, it's funny that, for you guys, it was never around because it wasn't accessible, but for me, it was like always there and always my go-to. Regardless, I had the disc anyways, but convenience of digital is great.
So 15 times, like 8 times because of the movie, and then 7 times because of the 4K HDR. We kind of
that sounds about right.
Two of them for Aunt May for the most part, maybe.
Fair enough.
Aunt May 4K, yes, love it. So, I don't know, JT. I want to ask you about this. Almost a little tangent. I would buy every Blu-ray and MCU as soon as they came out. Obviously, as I switched to 4K a little bit later on, and that's how I am with Star Wars and really not many other movies. I do like the hard copy of things. I know John in a lot of cases likes the digital copies. Like JT, where do you stand on that? Are you a mix? Do you care one way or another on the physical versus digital?
I used to be big on the physical. I just kind of veered away from where and how I watch anything. Like I have an Amazon Fire Cube for my main, I guess, setup. And I used to watch everything through my gaming systems, but now I don't. Right. So like my gaming systems and stuff is all in my office now. And I typically, if I'm watching movies, I like to watch in the living room with the TV. So yeah, just kind of veered away from like different technology and obviously nowhere to put a disc in. So I kind of just stopped buying it. Digitally, I'll buy it. I don't own the entire MCU though. I probably should. I don't know why I don't.
Well, nowadays,
then again, Disney Plus
right.
now. Yeah, now out of all times for sure. But if you're speaking to back then, I just kind of veered away once I got away from using the system to watch stuff. So
John says 15 times he's seen the movie. JT's seen it too. I got to land smack dab probably in the middle. I would have to factor probably about 8 times. Usually if I'm watching this, it's a part of one of the rewatches as I build up to the next MCU movie that's coming out. And as I've said, it's been more of like a digestion with me. This is a movie where I really want to sit and focus and watch it. Lights out, no one around, daughter's in bed. This is one that I really want to be glued to. Whereas maybe a Guardians, I could, as much as I love it, I could have it on in the background, but because it's so fun and it's like you don't need all the details. This one you don't want to miss a thing, despite it being kind of that fun-loving, easygoing movie. Favorite non-title character. I could go first and steal the show, and maybe I should because I never go first with this anymore.
Go ahead, do it.
Go ahead.
Guys, you know what? I could go a number of directions, but I'm gonna go with
the way.
I'm going with Adrian. Adrian Toomes is my guy. Michael Keaton, man, holy crap! I mean, we know Michael Keaton's a good actor, but this is, you get as we've talked about, so many big name actors that get into these movies in cameos and sometimes just these little parts. He's a very prominent character, and the word I would best use to describe him is presence.
Oh yeah,
man,
commands a scene in this movie.
Yes, he balances this movie out, and he's all into character there. There's almost it's incredible acting. As much as I would love to say Robert Downey Jr. is my guy in this movie, got to go with Adrian. Just awesome all around. I didn't know what to expect. I see in the trailer there that he gives that line about how he's going to kill Peter and if he goes too far, along with everyone he loves. And I'm like, okay, come on. It's a tried and true villain. Get him the hell out of here. But when we see the movie and we see his motivations for what he does, the MCU, especially in the later MCU movies, does a good job not justifying, but at least giving you insight into why a villain does what they do. And I can say here, guys, he's doing what he's doing for his family, right? First and foremost.
They set that up so well at the opening scene in the way that he's got this great job and this great opportunity. Totally. It's just ripped away from him. It's just ripped away. And that's the opening scene of a Spider-Man film. And we find out why, and they make it matter so much.
But how realistic does that feel, too? Like, here we go. If superheroes existed, they're the ones making the mess. Oh, and they're cleaning it. They're getting paid to clean it up too.
Right.
BS. I love that. All of that. Such great motivation for this guy. Loved him in Vulture, but really loved him in those smaller sequences, whether it's with his family or with his crew, and how he's like a mechanic almost, right? How he operates with them, and then we could talk about that car scene with Peter all day long. But dude, my goodness. Intense. Just absolutely intense. One of my favorite MCU characters in terms of villains. So that's my guy. I had to go first here, but many good characters to pick from. John, we already know you're going to pick Aunt May. Just kidding. John, why don't we go to you next, though?
I just want to touch on what we kind of just talked about before I go into my character and the
sure.
fact that world building with what happened after the battle in Avengers 2012. This movie does a great job filling in some little gaps that we probably wouldn't have gotten from another mainline Avengers movie or from an Iron Man movie. We're back in 2012. We're seeing somebody has to clean up this mess. We're seeing the fact that Tony Stark, built this committee or whatever to take care of it. Later, we're seeing the move from Avengers Tower to upstate New York, so they don't have to, give us that as a one-off dialogue piece in the next Avengers film as to why they're no longer in New York. So I love how this movie, while being a Spider-Man story, gives you those little. He really has nothing to do with the Avengers in this movie. I mean, he's very much told he's not an Avenger, and that the problems he's dealing with are so minuscule that we're not going to deal with that. But we still get some story progression for like the overall MCU. Just small stuff, but cool stuff.
Well, as I said, no stone left unturned. Very carefully detailed, and they build that. If they didn't do this right, it would just feel like, oh, they're tying in the Avengers just because they can. But they didn't. They made it very meaningful. I mean, like, Happy is a wonderful character in this movie as part of all of that. Just priceless. Anyway, back to you, John.
You nailed it. Happy's my non-titular character, man. Yes. I love Happy in this movie. I mean, you talk about Jon Favreau. We all love him, and you know he obviously had his acting debut, not debut, but his presence in the MCU was already felt before this movie. But I feel like this is where like we get the Happy that we all know and love. He's got so much development. I guess that's not true. Iron Man 3 Happy was pretty awesome too, but it's more of that. Happy's so good in this. He's Peter Parker's point person, but he's also his babysitter, and like his levels of frustration and comedy with all that. I just love seeing Happy on screen this much. It was awesome.
Dude, great selection. I rolled the dice there as a segue, and I'm happy it paid off.
Yeah, right. Nailed it. I had multiple options, and I think I probably wouldn't have gone with Happy if you didn't set that up so perfectly. I probably would have gone with Flash, but that's out there.
Whoa. Okay, JTR, would you have chosen Flash? Just
no.
Okay.
You guys picked the two I would pick.
I'll talk about Flash for a second. He's perfect. Like, he's such a good high school bully that's not over the top, is like lovable, but like you have a high school bully in every Spider-Man movie, right? And he's always this jock, and there's nothing redeemable about him. Flash is so funny, dude. Like, I don't know. We've all been there in situations where we're picking on somebody we probably shouldn't be when we're young dumb kids. You can see how Flash is funny enough where it's like Penis Parker, like, he's just charming. Nothing's like, he's not over the top. He's not starting fist fights with Peter in the middle of the hallways like we saw in the other Spider-Man films. I think Flash is super funny.
We've all been there. We've had those people probably, I say pick on us. Like, nothing's over the line there, and he knows he can handle it. And how he is at the party as the DJ is pretty funny. Running in the hotel, like when he slaps Peter's butt, like this is the proverbial like high school prick, right? Like, it's just, yeah, you're right, John. He really nailed that.
Funny.
He is funny. JT, who is the non-title character?
You guys took the two of mine that I would have gone with. But let's go with the simple and basic. Tony Stark. Who doesn't love Robert Downey? Kind of speaking to what you guys said earlier. Definitely taking on a different type of role, I feel like, as far as a father figure. You didn't figure maybe a little premonition towards him becoming a dad in the future of the MCU. Who knows? But no, I just love the dynamic they had. Clearly shown. I mean, I remember specifically that tryout for Tom Holland when he auditioned. No, not tryout. Clearly went into the film pretty easy, and they had a good rapport. So I just love it. You see it throughout the MCU. You see it here. You obviously see it in Civil War before this. So Robert Downey all day. Who doesn't love Robert Downey?
I think he's so perfectly used in this movie because like he could have easily stolen the show and been there too much, right? Like, we could have easily gotten a Spider-Man movie, but it's like, all right, we got a Spider-Man movie, but like, it was all about Iron Man. He stole the show, and he was just like not having him there physically in that first little appearance. I think was like really clever, but also thematically it works so well because Peter wasn't ready to do this alone for a very long time, and we got to see him struggle. And when he needed help, RDJ was there. We had the support system, and at the end of the movie it comes full circle and things go well. But I just thought they very smartly used Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man in this movie.
Yeah. They knew that no matter how few and far between the scenes were, that they were still going to be super impactful and meaningful to the film, right? Like, they just know, you can have 2 scenes, you can have 10 lines, you're still going to be as impactful if you were in the whole movie because you're Robert Downey freaking Jr. So it's just, I think they knew that and they played it right, and I'm surprised in a way. I don't know how much, I guess the question for both of you, how much creative control or if any, did Sony have? I mean, almost none. That was my assumption, right? Marketing and just making money off it was my understanding.
They published the film and they marketed it. Yep.
Okay. So good job, MCU. Sony, you get nothing.
What a relationship. Like, what a deal that is. Because Sony makes out from that, financially. And Marvel gets to use that character and really further invest in the greater MCU. We talk about Robert Downey Jr.'s role in this and how it really could have been too little. It could have been more cameo. And then it could have been too much. And they resisted that temptation. I mean, I think of like the cover of the movie, and like that's how it could have ended up poorly if this is how the movie went, but it didn't. It was that as always with the MCU, it was written in how it should have been. Not just for this movie, but for future installments as we got to Avengers and other Spider-Man films.
And you speak about the cover, it's exactly how it shouldn't have been. Thanks, Sony. Terrible.
Exactly.
They're just so... All the posters for this movie, and even Far From Home, they're just so bad. I
can't wait to see the next one.
Yeah.
So it'll be soon. So in shifting gears, before we get to my notes, I want to get to that moment. That whether it's a quote, an individual performance, or even an action sequence, what kind of stuck out to you? Because we made JT go last time. JT, why don't we go first for this? Is there any specific moment or quote that just rings most prominent in your mind?
I know we spoke about the original trilogy Spider-Man movies. One thing I liked about those, and I kind of go semi-tangent here, the impact of the fight scenes and how you almost felt how much he was getting beat, and like, I guess what do you call that? The cinematography of it.
Sure.
I love that fight scene at the end for, the final scene fighting Vulture. I mean, they played that. I don't know what they did in terms of like sound and music and all that stuff, obviously specifically. But I almost felt like I was in that fight with Peter. The pain he was feeling, and even a little before that when he got stuck under the building and everything too. Like that was like it just all perfect. Like I felt, I'm like, oh no. Like I literally said, oh no. Like I literally told my wife when we were watching it together, like, I watched this already, even though I only watched it one time. But I'm saying, oh no, like is he okay? Like, you know what I mean? Like it was super impactful, and I don't know how or why that was specifically as far as like filming and things like that. But I just love that final scene. It was great.
I'll tell you why that scene specifically was so impactful. It was Tom Holland's performance, dude. Every time I watch that scene, when he's crushed under that building, and when he yells out "help," it is one of the most devastating things in this movie or in the MCU. Okay, like it's just it is so. And you think about cinematography, nothing is happening. It is just a dead shot. There's no music from what I remember. It's just a cold blue room, and it's just him struggling, and like the whole weight of the world is on him, and he failed in his head at that moment, and he's either got to put up or shut up, and we see his struggle, man, and I think that's the moment where he kind of really turns to like, can I be an Avenger? Yes, I got this. But man, that struggle was brutal. That could have easily been my moment. Just that right there, him being stuck under there.
Specific part, right? Yeah. So yeah, for sure, definitely the performance by him was just amazing. Easily a top moment for me.
A very intense moment, and when I watched this, I was particularly watching this portion on my phone in the car. It's a dark scene. There's a glare, and you really, I couldn't really see totally what was going on. And I love that the audio sense of this really got enhanced. So essentially, I'm staring at a blank phone and hearing Tom Holland scream in that part. I know exactly what's going on because I've seen this 108 times. I said, but the intensity and emotion there is something that you can't just capture. Like I'm not saying it would have been messed up, but this was next level with how good it was. He really dug down deep to get there. John, I'm going to let you go next because I've got a moment in mind, and I've got a few backups in case it's taken. So why don't you go?
Yeah, I'll go with the reveal. That's for me. I mean, I think back to that first viewing in theaters, and when we finally realized that Liz's dad is the Vulture, Adrian Toomes. He opened, and it's just done so well. You talk about cinematography and the way that was shot. They fooled everybody, man. Like everything's going so well, you don't expect the door to open and for this movie to entirely change right there. I just remember it being such a jaw-dropping moment. And every time I watch it, obviously I know it's coming, but I get to remember what it felt like back then when I saw it for the first time. So it's something that will always stick with me. It's just they did such a good job, man. It's so well crafted.
My stomach twisted, like I felt sick for a second. That doesn't happen to me in movies ever. And I remember Lauren, my wife, sat next to me and basically jumped like a scary movie. It turned quickly there. My goodness gracious, never saw that coming.
Everybody in the theater gasped. Like that was so cool.
We were feeling what Tom Holland was feeling there, or Peter Parker, I should say. Yeah. Like, dude, how good is he in that scene? Let's talk about that real quick. So he's just staring at Adrian like an awkward teenager, right?
Yeah.
But not because he's dating the daughter, because, oh my gosh, this guy's going to kill him if he figures out who he is.
Right, and that speaks to like the awkwardness and the inexperience of Pete as this character and as the superhero. He handled that terribly in hindsight. Like he had zero poker face. He was like shaking in his boots. Like it was very clear that if he asked the right question, which he did, or just gave up the right information, that he was going to be found out. And like he had no control of that situation, couldn't hide it for a second. And that's what a dumb 15-year-old kid would do.
Honestly, it's part of the growth, right? To being an Avenger, let alone a man. But also, you can play into like when he meets Aaron Davis in the parking lot, and Aaron Davis says, "You're not very good at this, are you?"
Yeah,
like
you gotta work on this part of the job, man.
Yeah, like just beautiful stuff. Anyway, my moment is after the boat scene with the one-on-one with Tony Stark, and it's such leadership, such fatherhood, if you will, from Tony Stark there, and the way he talks, and it's just awesome. But the line that captures it for me is, if you're nothing without the suit, then you shouldn't have it. And you think back about Iron Man's original movie, the adventure that he went through in a lot of it, and it's just everything that Tony Stark is trying to teach Peter is based on his experience, whether it was his personal experience in becoming a superhero, like an Avenger, or his experience with his dad, his own dad. And I think all of it actually just molds beautifully. And I think what's funny to me is I've had some friends in different circles who hated this dynamic. We're like, why is Tony Stark like the father figure? Like that's never been a thing. I'm like, I don't give a crap if it's never been a thing. I don't care if it was a thing. Yeah. The way that it's playing out here in the MCU, especially with those two guys in Holland and in RDJ, who have just this incredible chemistry, who bring really good writing to a great level of writing. It blows my mind that anyone has a problem with that. To each their own, but to me, that is crazy.
Never been a thing. Want to know what's never been a thing? A cinematic universe, 24 movies wrong, getting everything right. Like, you kidding me?
That's right. Okay. Let's get into notes. There's a lot here that I want you guys to just, interrupt me. Just dive into stuff because there's so much good here. I didn't think I was going to take many notes on this movie, but sorry guys. I'm sorry. I just kept going.
Good. You have to.
I had to. More than I took for Guardians, I'll say.
I even took notes and I don't do that.
Yes. All right. John used to in the early MCU.
I did, but I've gone through most of what I just kind of planned it out throughout.
That's right. So I'm saying this tongue in cheek. I love how we get two intros with Sony's intro, then it cuts off, and then we get the MCU montage, and that's when the movie really kind of starts.
The real one, yeah.
I always thought that was interesting, but it kind of shows the partnership there, so I respect it. During the Marvel intro, we get the best arrangement musically of the Spider-Man theme I've ever heard. It is my favorite.
Very good.
I could just listen to it on repeat.
Yeah, what a good way to start, like the opening note, right? Like just to get you going.
Yes. In the beginning, we see what happens to Adrian Toome's company there, which is garbage.
Right.
But what rings in my head is Tony Stark's quote on creating your own demons, as he says in Iron Man 3. To a degree, he creates this demon because he creates, granted, the Avengers are saving the world, by the way. And Tony is trying to do a good thing by creating this Department of Damage Control, something like that, where they clean up stuff. He's really doing a good thing. But there's always two sides to every story. And in this case, he's creating this villain in Adrian Toomes that you wouldn't foresee coming. So that quote always rings in my head. Peter's home video at the beginning is great for so many reasons. I've got a few. First, it establishes the happy relationship and how just pissed off and annoyed he is at Peter all the time. It reinforces quickly. We heard about it, and we saw it in Civil War. We were told that it was going to be this way, but this reinforced it, that Peter is a kid. This is the kid Spider-Man we really didn't get in the past iterations of Spider-Man. It ties in Civil War and gives you the wonderful alternate perspective. I love that the cameras roll in there, so we see a lot of what was going on in Civil War.
Dude,
I love that.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And him freaking out and then vlogging essentially. Yes. Happy going, the walls are thin. Just all of it's great. And then point number 4 here, reason number 4, RDJ saying, May, what are you wearing? Something skimpy, I hope. Is so. Let's talk about Aunt May real quick. What are our feelings on this version of Aunt May?
I love it, man. It's just such a different take on Aunt May, right? Like Aunt May and Uncle Ben have always, as far as I've consumed Spider-Man content, been an older, late 60s type people to kind of have this take on it. You've got this 15-year-old kid. Of course, his aunt could be in her in her 40s and be attractive. That's very plausible. So it's just a really cool take on it, and it's used very well with the comedic timing with Tony and even Happy to a degree, right? Like that doesn't come for a little later, but that's there.
I always talk about the MCU being really self-aware. That is one of those moments to me that they acknowledge that she's this young hot thing, right? In relation to our old iterations of Aunt May, and just of course, who better to call that out than Tony Stark?
Right.
Two things.
Before you go further, dude, this is like a theme throughout this whole movie. I can't believe I haven't touched on yet. Self-awareness is what this movie is all about. Like, just think about the title of this movie, Homecoming. Like that, they picked that movie for a reason. Spider-Man is back in the hands of Marvel, man. Like they are finally making another. Like what doesn't really make much sense for the rest of the movie, for the actual theme of this film, other than the fact that he's in high school. Like it's very deliberate in the sense that, like, all right, he's back. We've got him. We're making another true Spider-Man movie. What was the thing you just said about? What did you mention about? I just lost it.
We were talking about Aunt May being self-aware.
Self-awareness. I had another point I was going to go into, but I'm sure I can get back to it. I lost it. Go on to your next point.
I'm sure it'll come back.
Yeah, for sure.
2 points down the line, I had the Homecoming point. I think it was so perfect when that was announced, and I knew nothing about the movie, but that it was Homecoming. It was that Spider-Man's coming back home, baby. Of course, it's great that there's a homecoming dance going on, right? It's just a nice little quirky way to make that happen or tie that in. But two things with Pete and Tony's exchange in the car were funny to me. Not just funny, but a little bit symbolic and meaningful later on as we get into the later movies. Pete goes to hug Tony, but of course it's not a hug. So, right, like that's kind of a funny, awkward moment. What's great though is that, of course, Tony hugs Pete in Endgame when they get reunited. Oh, that's a nice little, yeah, it's a nice little circle, coming full circle there.
Yeah.
And then Pete asks if he's an Avenger, which he's not, right? Like RDJ or Tony Stark is strict on that. Of course, in Infinity War, he does the knighting on the ship, and he says you're an Avenger. So those two little moments end up getting kind of rectified later on. Throughout my notes here, this is going to shock the audience. I'm going to talk about little Star Wars tie-ins. So it's clear from Civil War that Peter Parker is a Star Wars fan, which is great. And it's great cross promotion for Disney. The Lego Death Star is just super freaking awesome to me. Like I think we've all been there. We've been, not necessarily with the Death Star, but your friend got that new Lego set, or it was you and you want to build it. I just love that it ends up being Star Wars. MJ's line is hysterical early on in the movie. I'm not obsessed with him. I'm just very observant. I was not totally into her character the first few times I saw this, but she grew on me more and more, and especially as we got into Far From Home. I don't know how you guys felt about MJ in this.
For me, it was a slow burn, but it wasn't a slow burn in the sense that I had to rewatch the movie. It just didn't happen until close to the end, where I was fully sold in her character. Kind of like, one of the final scenes of the movie where she gets to be the captain of the debate team. She kind of like brings in all of the awkward vibes and everything she's been putting out there. She kind of wraps it up very well, and you kind of get a sense that, like, I didn't have any friends until now. I thought that was pretty well done. I think that's where they were going for. Like, she was, the awkward girl on the outside. She's, close enough to Peter and Ned, but like she's not necessarily friends with them. So she's kind of just like this weird girl over there. And I thought they tied it up pretty well. And I think we obviously, with the reveal that she goes by MJ and, the fact that she was now friends with Ned and Peter, we knew she was going to be a bigger part in these movies, and that evolved very well.
It was really good too, that they differentiated her from past Spider-Man versions of this character, just like they did with Aunt May, right? And then Ned to me is really a new character. So the way they did all of that was a good way of not just establishing their own Spider-Man, but just kind of slowly separating what they had in the past.
We'll say watching Far From Home for me made me like MJ more in this. Like Far From Home,
no doubt.
like watching Homecoming, I didn't like her as a character at all. But watching Far From Home and then going back to Homecoming now, definitely liked it more.
AT, maybe that is why I like her more. As we've watched it more, of course, Far From Home came out in the middle of all those rewatches for me. So I think that's a pretty good point. On the shelf in Peter's room, he's not just a Star Wars fan, but specifically Empire Strikes Back, as he references in Civil War. You've got Luke in his rebel orange outfit there. You've got Princess Leia from the shelter on Hoth. There's some of the bounty hunters. Just these little things throughout the movie. Man, I just love it. This, I don't know if I just glossed over this the first few times I watched it, but when we're seeing on the TV the news talk about Spider-Man saving the day with the ATM there, I think it's hysterical that the picture they have of him is him coming out of a porta potty. Like, that's just ridiculous and stupid, and it's so quick.
Right. I noticed that a couple times. Yeah, it wasn't my first viewing when I noticed that either. I remember being like, oh, that's funny.
There's more Civil War tie-ins. They're talking about the Sokovia Accords in history class, I presume.
Yeah.
Or maybe some sort of social studies. Of course, there's, as I mentioned, no stone left unturned on the bus as Peter's answering his question, his trivia question as they're practicing. His involves vibranium, tie into Black Panther there. I think the movie, in terms of self-awareness, it makes fun of Peter's opportunity to kiss Liz upside down.
Right.
Right? Like, that's 100% a callback to the very classic scene from the original Spider-Man, where Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst's kiss. I love it so much. They're like, Peter, this is your opportunity. And it lingers long enough that I'm sitting there in the theater going, oh my gosh, they're actually going to do this. And then, of course, he falls.
That's great.
Gosh, I love all of that. Just these nods, some subtle, some not so much. The teacher in the interview afterwards, where he says, I couldn't bear to lose a student on a field trip. Not again. What? What a wonderful performance that is. Of course, Aaron Davis. We got Donald Glover there. So we got the Miles Morales drop. Of course, we know he exists in this universe. Can't wait to see where that eventually goes.
I really hope it goes somewhere. I really hope that goes somewhere. I hope this wasn't just like an Easter egg. I just hope that Marvel and Sony like figure this out for the long term, because I really need to see what an MCU Miles Morales looks like, man.
I think it's
my best. Sorry, Joe.
Oh, go ahead, JJ.
My best guess would be the agreement would be the MCU can keep Miles and they'll go ahead and do their own thing with Peter. That's the best scenario, and I'm good with it. That gives us a Spidey for good. At this point, I think Miles would be way too young. I think he'd be like 4 or 5 or something like that. But obviously we got some years, or well, who knows? They did the 6 years in advance, obviously, when Peter disappeared too. So
right.
Who knows? That can all be explained later. But I think that they didn't just throw the Easter egg for no reason. Miles is going to be involved to some degree.
Well, I think they could have easily planted that. It's not even Easter egg. It's a confirmation that they have, they have plans to do it. Sure, right. But I think it could be something that misses with this relationship. I think it's possible that it doesn't go that far. I just hope I'm wrong. I hope they can work it out.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Again.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, the only thing that stands in the way of this happening is that relationship from Sony and Marvel.
100%. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's, put it in the books. I mean, we saw the fallout after Homecoming, a little bit later on. But we almost weren't going to get a third Spider-Man movie here. Like, oh my gosh, remember what a dark time that was to be like, are you kidding me? We're really ruining this right now? Or that might have been post-Infinity or Endgame. I think it was post-Endgame.
It was at least post-Infinity War and no, it had to have been because it was post Far From Home. So yes, 100%. Yeah.
So, man, that was all such a bummer. And it was like, just figure this out. Of course, rumor had it that Tom Holland got those groups together. Who knows? Right. But, man, I hope that this upcoming movie is not the last one we get. It's too good. Sony and Marvel, just figure it out. Of course, that Aaron Davis scene is kept by the comment that he has ice cream in the car and he can't move his hand for 2 hours. That's great.
Yeah.
I already mentioned my moment of the movie. If you're nothing without that suit, this suit, then you shouldn't have it. My bullet point here literally just says, "Holy crap!" when Adrian opens the door.
Yeah, I
think it's
talked
fun.
about that.
We did. I think it's funny that Peter can't drive, but just further reinforces the point that he's a kid and he's only done a little bit with Aunt May. I wanted to talk about this one. Maybe I'm looking too far into it. Happy mentions there's a prototype for Cap's new shield.
Yeah, I don't know if that ever came to fruition or.
Yeah, or is this?
This is shield that Stark gave him in Endgame.
That's what I was thinking.
Because remember, the shield in Civil War was destroyed, so it's probably just like new shield.
The one he has in Infinity War is from Wakanda.
Yeah, that's not a Cap shield. That's
my thought was,
well, the Endgame one he gave him at the Avengers facility is probably the prototype he was talking about. I think at least
that would make. I mean,
that's what I think too.
Timeline wise, that would make the most sense, right?
Because it's a nice little planting there. Because it's like, all right, Tony Stark, he knows he's got to salvage this relationship at some point, and I like that he's already kind of working on the behind the scenes to replace that shield.
Right.
So
that's cool.
Did you mention Thor? Was it Thor's magic belt or something like that?
Yeah. I'm sure that has like a
what the heck is that
or something like
yeah. There's got to be some kind of reference. I'm not. I don't know. And usually I dig into stuff like that, but for this specific instance, I didn't.
If he's got a hammer name,
and he couldn't pronounce it.
Yeah, exactly.
Happy not being able to pronounce it was amazing. Like he was like, the magic belt.
That's 100% a thing in the comics.
Yeah, it's
like they always joke that Mjolnir is meow meow or meow meow. Like they can't say it. Like that's totally a thing.
Right.
I love the parallels, as I mentioned earlier, too, between Iron Man 1 and this. A lot of Peter's journey reflects what we saw with Tony Stark and becoming Iron Man, but Peter just makes different choices. And Tony even says that. He says, I thought you could be better, which is a beautiful thing. But ironically enough, both of them have the kind of the run-in to shut down weapons going to the enemy or to bad guys, right? Like Tony Stark shuts down the weapons division for his company after he realizes they're going to people overseas that should not have them. And in this case, we're seeing a little bit of the same thing here. What's also great is the ending of this movie. So Tony Stark, of course, at the end of Iron Man 1, it's so epic. He gets in front of the reporters and he goes for it. He says, "I am Iron Man," right? His ego. He wants that publicity to say, "Yep, I'm Tony Stark, but I'm also freaking Iron Man." Peter Parker decides to be better. He keeps that identity concealed and he doesn't reveal it. He doesn't go into that press conference that he thinks is a test. But there's really a room full of reporters, just like there was in Iron Man 1. I love that. And Tony Stark's reaction there is validation. And he knows right then and there that Peter Parker can be better than he was when he had that same choice. What symmetry there.
So, quick question. To kind of piggyback off that. Sokovia Accords, did they have to publicly acknowledge who they were, like Tony? Or did the government just need to know their non-superhero identities?
Yeah,
because it's kind of interesting when you think about the end of Far From Home when it's revealed that to the world that Peter's Spider-Man. I'm just wondering if Peter decided to walk in that room, would everybody have just known right away?
Good question. Yeah, I don't know.
You know what I mean? It's kind of interesting. I don't know. Just kind of thought about it randomly, but
right. Yeah, that's always been like a Spider-Man thing to keep that identity.
Right.
If he became an Avenger, would he?
I mean, in the real Civil War, like the comic line, Spider-Man died. Well, he agreed to Accords. So, just interesting. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely interesting. Two last things here. Again, in Peter's room, as we're getting a pan at the end of the movie, we see really epic original versions of the X-Wing toy and the AT-AT. Again, more Star Wars callbacks. And then, of course, May ends the movie epically as she realizes what's going on with Peter. And then in the post-credit or the mid-credit scene, I love that Adrian does not blow Peter Parker's identity in. Just a nice,
some respect
nice
there.
Little. He's got some heart despite the things he's done. So those are my Spider-Man notes. John, what did I miss?
Captain America, man. Are you kidding me? Those Captain America, those educational videos, especially led by Hannibal Buress, dude, like so good. I'm pretty sure this guy's a war criminal now, but I gotta play these things. So funny, so unexpected, and just like another perfect way to bring in a big name, and not have to pay him the big bucks and make the movie about him. But those were so funny because like that's if there were superheroes, that's how it would go. You would get a Captain America, the perfect guy. He'd be the one telling you about sex ed and that kind of stuff. Like it's perfect.
Dude, I remember watching that, and obviously it was great because we get Iron Man and Cap in this movie in some capacity, and that was the perfect use for Cap. But I was like contract counting at this point because I'm like, oh gosh, these guys are like, we're getting to the end. I'm like, oh no, this counts. This counts towards Chris Evans' mega contract.
Yeah.
So for me, the one thing that I guess caught my attention was, going back again to the Amazing Spider-Man with Garfield. They were getting ready to set. I don't know if you guys remember or not. They were getting ready to set up the Sinister Six.
Yep.
Before they ended it, the MCU kind of threw like 3 characters at us right away for it: Shocker and Vulture and Scorpion at the end. So it's just really cool that they all these other movies were needed multiple to try to figure that out, and now here we are. And who knows? It could be a multiversal Sinister Six coming in December. We'll see.
Right, but look at the way they did it. The subtle way, like, all right, here's these characters.
So subtle,
right? Like, Shocker might just be like a small little moniker for this guy. It might not
exactly
matter, and like this guy might never come to fruition. But like, look at the way they try to do it in Amazing Spider-Man 2. It's like, boom, in your face. Here's the Sinister Six coming next. Like, ugh, like
yeah, literally. They might as well just put a poster up, like
exactly. So they're doing the right things.
Yeah,
it's the MCU way, guys.
It is.
Any other notes I missed?
I think we got it.
I think we got it all.
All right, fellas. Before we get to ranking this, I want to mention one more time here. The show is presented by Fantastic, our wonderful friends over at 26 Shirts, led by Del Reed, our good friend. Go to 26shirts.com. Check out what they've got going on. They've raised $1.1 million to date in really a few years' time. That goes straight to charities, to families in need, to individuals in need. Every shirt, a percentage of that goes to those individuals. And boy, do they do a lot of good for the community. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Del Reed, you inspire a lot of us. We're lucky to be your friend. We know you're listening to this episode. We can't wait to have you on for what's coming next. But guys, the MCU rankings here, I was worried a little bit. I think John was too. JT, I feel like we're more on the same. I think we're more on the same page here, and it's so funny because I texted each of you individually. I was like, I didn't want to get in a group. I was like, what's going on here? How do you kind of feel about the movie? It was bizarre. I've never done that for these movies, but I texted you each. Yep, go ahead.
Sorry, real quick. John was 100% right to be worried before I did this rewatch. No way you were.
What's funny is
I'm glad it went that way though.
You knew.
I left JT's.
Really well.
I was like, that's fine. With John, I was like, dude, don't worry. You only need one vote. You only need me. So this is officially, as it stands right now, no Black Widow, no 2021 MCU movies. We're a third of the way through, or 2/3 of the way through. Excuse me.
Say, we're past that.
Yeah, 2/3 of the way through. Movie number 16 on our rankings. John, if you want to cue it up and give us a quick recap as we get into this.
Right. So we've got him up now. And for the record, I know I only need one vote to go so far, but we'll see how far that vote goes.
Yeah.
So I've got the rankings up here. Number 1, we still have Captain America: Civil War. Number 2, Guardians Volume 2. Number 3, Guardians. Number 1. Number 4, we've got The Avengers. Number 5, we've got Avengers: Age of Ultron. Number 6, Captain America: Winter Soldier. Number 7, Iron Man. Number 8, Iron Man 3. Number 9, Ant-Man. 10, Doctor Strange. 11, Iron Man 2. 12, Captain America: The First Avenger. 13, Thor. 14, Thor: Dark World. And number 24, The Incredible Hulk.
Do you just want to move Hulk to 28?
We can probably do that, but hey, man, we gotta judge them fairly.
We gotta do things right.
Exactly.
Guys, I'm looking at the list. Winter Soldier is gonna fall out of the top 10.
It's a no doubter, and I'm so happy about it.
So upset about it.
I'll
find a way to make sure it stays in. No,
so John and I have not used the snap yet. It's gonna get kind of crazy. I don't even know if it's gonna get crazy or not. I thought Rashawn was the wild card with all that, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I have a number, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, where I think this is gonna land. I'm gonna keep that sealed for now. John,
I have a guess on where I think your number is too, but
okay. So you need to guess my number and then where you think it'll land. All right,
we'll see. Where do we start? I know John obviously was a lot cooler on this movie, coming into this week and only having seen it the one time, and he's come around on it a long way. John, do you have the list up? Where do you want to start with it? Where were?
I would say for me, easily above Ant-Man.
Easily above Ant-Man.
That's a good starting point. I was thinking middle of the road there. Start.
I like that. Easily above Ant-Man. I mean, we loved Ant-Man, but easily above Ant-Man.
Agreed.
When we start to get to Iron Man, it gets tricky. So not tricky. I think we're gonna still move up a little bit, but that's safe above Ant-Man.
That's a very safe starting
I'm not worried at all about this.
Oh yeah, me either.
I'm very confident where this is going.
All right. So we'll start above Ant-Man. Who thinks it's better than Iron Man 3?
Me.
I do too.
Me.
Good job, John. Proud of you. All right, so we've got Iron Man 1 ahead of it, a very good origin story. Who thinks this is a better origin story and movie?
Just as Peter Parker is better than Tony Stark, so is this movie over Iron Man.
Oh, I love it. John?
Oh, raise it up.
Got the thumbs up.
Your thumb was off screen on my. I couldn't see it.
Oh, sorry.
I've got you cropped out.
I need you to do it like this.
Yeah, any facial signals right in front of your face. I only basically have your face here. All right, so John, thumbs up ahead of Iron Man. Now this is gonna be tough because I feel like John might put. All right, so Winter Soldier.
We're so focused on me. Let's have fun.
Dude, I was debating so much. Like I was gonna drop a bomb and be like, okay, what if you think a movie is better than the one two ahead, but not the one above it? And I'm like, too deep. Well,
no, that's where the struggle comes in. I was just gonna say that because like John might think that Spider-Man's better than the Avengers.
I'm gonna say this straight up that I think I am one of the people that thinks Winter Soldier is one of the best in the MCU. But I am realistic in knowing it's not gonna last. I might try to keep it in the top 10, but for now, it's not gonna last top 10. So yeah, better in Winter Soldier.
Okay. All right, we're moving up because that's a yes for me and Joe. That's a yes for
and
you.
That's hard. Like I'm a big Winter Soldier fan. It's hard for me, but
that's huge. That's huge. All right. Age of
Ultron. You gotta think when we do this too. Sorry, not to interrupt, but
no.
When we do this, it's not just whether I think it's better or not better than Winter Soldier. I love Winter Soldier. There's other movies up there above it that you guys put that I may think is better than those, right? So I may just want to get it above that. So it's not just Winter Soldier.
Yeah, it's kind of the
point
where
selfish.
It's like.
I can't be selfish.
It's kind of the point where it's like, all right, you have a movie that's like way lower than you expect, and that's like definitely out of the list where it should be for you, but you still want to get the current movie to where you want it, right? So
yes, exactly.
That's kind of how it goes.
That's where I'm at.
Because if push comes to shove, you prefer Winter Soldier,
right?
Bang for bang against each other, Winter Soldier, hands down.
Sure.
Okay. So we're playing the game here. I like it.
It's just where it gets tough, like it's difficult.
Ranking within a ranking, tough.
It is. So we all got it. We all have it ahead of Winter Soldier. Who says Ultron? I say yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's go. All right.
And John and I have been loving it by the second. I feel like every second that passes by, we're falling more in love with Ultron.
No doubt.
Hard.
No, Ultron is like
hard. Not too hard.
Climbing. Like honestly, I'm at the point where I'm like close to saying that Ultron's better than the first Avengers movie.
Same.
But
I tried.
But it's done. It's in stone. We can't go back.
I know. I tried.
All right. So we all said that. Do we all think that Homecoming is better than Avengers?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're at the point where it's between Avengers and Guardians. Joe, this is my guess as to where I think you think it was going to lie.
Okay.
That's just saying that. All right. Who thinks that Spider-Man Homecoming is better than Guardians of the Galaxy?
I do.
I do as well.
Oh, damn it. No, I don't.
That was your guess? Was that your guess too?
Yes. I actually thought this was going to land at 4.
Right.
Taking my bias out of it, by the way.
I know that, which is fair because you know how much I love Guardians. So I think that's a very fair bet.
I can't be mad. It's all right.
Right. For me, it comes down to the fact that like Spider-Man just resonates so much with me. And so when you perfect a Spider-Man movie, the things that I love about Guardians of the Galaxy and the fact that like even in the down moments, there's comedy or there's great music or there's great color. For me, that there's that in Spider-Man almost tenfold. Like every moment you're either having a fun moment in New York City where he's doing backflips because he's bored, or he's trying to return a bike to somebody with a note and he doesn't know whose bike it is, but like I'm the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, so I got to do something. Or if he's not doing that, he's with his friends. Like every moment is just like it's just so like it's so warming to me. I just love the life of Spider-Man in New York City. So like it's tough for me. It's tough for me because I do love Guardians, but John and I both say Spider-Man Homecoming is ahead of Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, John, what do you think about Guardians 2? Yes? Me too. Yes, this is great.
Yep.
This is great. This is so good. This is so good.
Yep.
Go, if you can't be mad about Guardians, you can't be mad about Guardians 2.
John, not to skip ahead a little too fast, but I'm not going above Civil War.
I knew there was no chance, and that's a tough
Right.
one for me too. So right now, you and I have it at number 2, ahead of Guardians 2, under Civil War. That would take a lot for me. I think that I'd be right there with you, and I probably wouldn't vote Homecoming above Civil War.
I think for you, I mean, for me, we had, I think, same but differing opinions as to why Civil War was one. But
Right.
speaking to you specifically, the episode we went over that, you loved Spider-Man being involved in that,
Sure.
along with everything else that was amazing. So you got everything you needed in that movie that you don't need Spider-Man to be one, right? You had Spider-Man in that as well. So for you, I think it's kind of comfortable. You know what I mean?
It's helpful.
To leave it at 2.
No doubt.
Right.
In Civil War, I think it's just that. I think it really like was what blew our minds, and like, all right, the MCU is real, man. Like you can take all of these characters from all these past 12, 13 movies we've had, and you can make almost all of them matter. And this movie is incredible. It's tough to beat Civil War throughout this entire list, not just at this point. Civil War is so good.
I see. I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I'm looking at Joe's face. He's gonna cancel the whole podcast.
Full plug.
Yeah,
Full
it's just I'm very surprised that I had the support to get this to number 2, and just speak to the fact that John came into this movie not really being high on it.
That's where I'm
incredible.
at.
That's incredible.
John, that's
For
so,
me. You know what? I
why-
almost think, now that I'm thinking about it, I think we went over my experience at the theater. I think I remember being kind of sick that day, and I kept having to leave the theater.
Makes sense, John. It's starting to add up. I like it.
Oh, please. So
And I watched the whole thing of Volume 2, just nowhere near it. I'm just kidding. Okay.
okay, this has become a game, and how bad can we make Joe? John, I thought it was going to 4 because I thought there was no way JT would vote it any higher. I thought he'd be well out by now in the voting, and I was like, I'm not voting it above Guardians. You might, but I'm not. So that's where I had it pegged. But JT played the game, so I'm not gonna cancel the show, but I am going to.
Yeah, he's snapping, baby. First snap.
The snap.
So I want Guardians Volume 2 back in the number 2 spot, and I want Homecoming to drop to number 3. I'm using my first snap, and I feel good about it.
That's a fair snap. I'm very curious about this. That's going to be a lot of fun.
I've got to get back on social media. I've got to get people going on this.
You got to campaign.
So,
you got
to campaign.
I don't know
James
where
Gunn.
people stand with that. What do you think I'm thinking?
I'm
such
so
a weird...
split. You know what? I feel like for both of these movies, people maybe who are not as into this as we are, I feel like both of the opinions have soured on both of these movies. I feel like in hindsight, I see people saying like, yeah, Spider-Man Homecoming was good, but it was a little kiddie. And I feel like people saying like, yeah, Guardians 2 was good, but the first one was better. I feel like both of those opinions are out there. So I don't know if this is going to get to the masses.
It's very odd pair to put against each other.
Right.
It is.
It's just I don't know. I don't know where people would lean.
Right.
No idea.
So I won't be surprised either way at all. But I think I've got enough to get Guardians back to where I want it. So
right.
that's happening.
Since we're using a snap, let's explain it again in case somebody hopped in halfway through the run of podcasts here. So all three of us get to use what we call a gauntlet or a Thanos snap to attempt to rearrange the list. John has already used one of his unsuccessfully. Joe and I, as of starting this, had all three of ours, and the rule is you can try to change 2 movies that are touching each other. So at the end of the episode, or whenever you want to use it, but if there's 2 movies that are touching and you want those to flip, you use a snap. You don't get that instantly. It doesn't just happen. We have to put a poll up on social media. So over on twitter.com/the_Geekiverse, we're going to have this poll up. It's going to be live for 3 days. I'm going to get this episode uploaded tonight. So it's that poll's going up tonight too, I think too.
Dude, I'm not ready for social media conflict.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to just dive into it. So it is what it is. But people, I need you. If you're listening or watching this, and this is still within the first day or two, get to Twitter and help out your old buddy Joe so he just doesn't lose his mind. I'm just kidding, folks. I really do love this movie, and I'm happy whatever happens. But I'm ready. I want Guardians back up.
I'm excited to see where this goes. So I'll put it this way: if 2 does make the rise up, I'm not going to be as upset because we all rated about 2. It was number 2 for a reason, right?
Right.
So, I'm really curious. It's an odd pairing. I'm really curious.
I just need James. I just need James, and I'm
James
good.
Gunn. Yeah, get him. Honestly, I am just so surprised that we got it this high. I just knowing John's opinion coming in, and even you,
Same.
Joe, just like getting a couple of little quips from me. I thought you were a little bit more middling on it. You're a little higher than I thought, but still, I knew you wouldn't get it ahead of Guardians, no matter what. I just knew that, like, just the way I know you and the way you vibe out with Guardians, as I do as well. You just don't have that same kind of love for Spider-Man, so I didn't think there was a chance. But I can't believe we got it to number 2, and I'm so pumped about it.
I can't either, and it's more so based on JT for me. But I'll say, if I think about the final version of this, when we get to 24 movies, like, I'm confident it's gonna get knocked down a few pegs. No disrespect to Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Fair.
So I think if I think of it like that, for me to say that it's a number 2 movie is like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. But it's 2 out of 16, so it's not so crazy.
It's 2 so far.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm excited.
We haven't discussed this yet, but I think we should maybe even discuss it on air. When Black Widow comes out, are we all planning on seeing it opening weekend? Is that like locked in?
Yes.
Do we just slot that in?
I see it opening night.
Yeah, me too. Do we just slot that in as that week's video? Do we not? We shouldn't wait till after, right? Let's just go over for it.
So if we haven't gotten to where we are,
we won't.
We haven't gotten.
We won't be at Black Widow, in time. It's like what, 3 weeks away.
But timeline wise, we're right where it should be.
Well,
Black Widow's right around when Spider-Man's going on, so I wouldn't, canonically speaking, it wouldn't make.
There's an OCD part of me that wants to wait and keep these in order.
Right.
But I'd be willing to sacrifice that if we. But I mean, you guys tell me if it works. John, you're getting
if the timeline didn't make sense, I wouldn't want to do it. But since the timeline does and Black Widow's during essentially where we are, I'm okay with it. I like how that worked out, though.
I think it'll just be fun to be able to review and pop in a brand new MCU movie into this. I mean, we kind of did it with WandaVision and with Falcon and Winter Soldier. We didn't put those on the list, but we talked about them. I think being able to talk about that like during the hype would be a pretty cool way to go about it.
I agree. I mean, we will catch up for Shang-Chi. Like, that will come out as we're supposed to. So
way ahead
I'm fine with that being the asterisk on the list.
Right.
From my point of view.
It's not even an asterisk. It's just, of course that's the way we would watch them now because that's the way they exist now. A new one comes out, we watch it, whatever. There's no rules.
It just makes me comfortable time. Like it's
complete anarchy.
No rules.
It's all good. All right. There you have it, folks. There's our new rankings, possibly temporarily, if you come through for me. We'll see what happens there. But always the most fun part of the show. MCU Reviewed, Spider-Man: Homecoming. If you wouldn't mind, I have to ask you, if you watch the video or if you listen to the podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, if you enjoyed it, would you mind sharing it with a friend? Because that goes really far for us. Our community is built on passion and having fun. And we had fun, I think, during this discussion. So hopefully that comes through, whether you're listening to it on the way to work, you're watching our episode on YouTube on your lunch break, whatever it might be. We would really, really appreciate that. You can go to thegeekiverse.com or you can go to youtube.com/thegeekiverse or download the podcast wherever you download podcasts. I speak for the other guys when I say it would mean a lot to us if you would do that. So thank you for your consideration. Final thoughts here, gentlemen, as we get to, oh my gosh, I can't even believe it's next. I can't believe it. Woohoo! Thor Ragnarok. Can you believe in 2017 we got these 2 movies plus Guardians Volume 2?
What a year.
Take it a step further. We got John Wick Chapter 2. we got The Last Jedi. Like, oh my gosh, 2017 was on fire.
Right.
So, Thor Ragnarok, the movie I thought of the three that I really wouldn't care about very much. Boy, was I wrong, and I can't wait to tell you how many times I've watched it. So, final thoughts on Spider-Man as we get into Thor. JT.
And I'm excited. We'll see. I don't really know.
Don't you put that energy out there again, man. Don't you do that.
No. So Thor Ragnarok saved Thor as a character for me.
We'll talk about it.
And we'll talk about it specifically, but I am super excited for Thor.
Oh my gosh, excited. I might watch it tonight and then again next week. John, final thought.
I was just real quick, sorry. I was going to watch Thor Ragnarok 2 weeks ago, and I was like, I didn't know how close we were because I don't really pay attention to how close. I just, when you guys tell me to watch it, I watch it. But I was like, oh wait, I can't. It's like so close. I don't want to ruin it for when I want to do my rewatch. So,
this Thor. Go ahead.
Not only Ragnarok, but I mean, if you include Ragnarok, we're 2 movies away from Infinity War. Wow. We got to get planning, boys.
We will. What I'll say about next week is Thor Ragnarok has been the one movie. We took this hiatus. I knew we were going to come back to this. There's a couple I couldn't wait for. I rewatched Infinity War and Endgame. Those were months ago at this point, so I've got a clean slate. Thor Ragnarok was the one I'm like, I'm not touching it. I'm not touching it. I have not seen this movie in a while. I cannot wait to rewatch it. I also cannot believe Spider-Man is number 2 right now. What a show. What a show. What a turn of events.
What a turn of events. Last week, we talked about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Thanks to you, it's been one of our most listened to podcast episodes ever. So thank you for making that happen. We hope you feel the same about Homecoming and all of our episodes moving forward. This has been another wonderful episode of the MCU Reviewed as presented by Fantastic here on the Geekiverse Network. I'm Josiah for John and JT. Thanks again for the listen. We'll see you guys soon.